I've been building my own kingdom for everyone to see. It exists to keep me safe from harm, and it's intact to glorify me. Nobody helped me build this up. It was me and me alone. I've appointed myself as the king, and I've given myself the throne. But it turns out I'm no ruler, and I have no control. So I have decided to destroy it all. I'm tearing down the walls, kicking down the doors. Everything inside this kingdom is yours. 'Cause what I've made is worthless, and it cannot stand. Come and breathe some life into my empty, cold, dead hands. Down with the fickle king, away with this fantasy. You are the one I need. Death to the kingdom of me. Death to the kingdom of me. I should probably be frightened. This empire's all I know, but it always does more damage than good. I'm afraid it's gotta go. I know that I can't be trusted, 'cause I'm just a man. And if you hadn't given your life for me, a loser would be all that I am. You know they say just follow your heart. I'm afraid that's a load of trash. Your heart will take you down to deep, dark places where you feel like you'll never come back. So I'm coming out of the dark. This facade is I woke up feeling like it was time to tighten up. Yeah.
Gosh. You know, it's funny. One day, you're sitting there, and your favorite football team in the world is 12-5 and number one seed in the AFC with a lot to look forward to. Everything's looking great. And then suddenly you lose in the playoffs in heartbreaking fashion at home as a number one seed because your quarterback threw 3 interceptions. Then you trade the best wide receiver that you've ever had. And then you continue on with Todd by God Downting as your offensive coordinator, and you have a 7-3 record and everything's still looking good, and then you lose the rest of your games and miss the playoffs after having a 7-3 start with a 4-game lead in the division, and then you come back the next year and the offense is painful to watch and everything's awful and everything's terrible, and you fire the coach, hire an offensive-minded head coach, and the player that was the face of your franchise leaves to go become a Baltimore Raven, and you start over, and you have a young quarterback that you have a lot of hope in, and then he comes out and shovel passes us into football hell, and then, you know, you have questions about the new coach, and then you draft a new quarterback with the first overall pick, and then you get a month into the season, and you realize that he's already developing bad habits because he's so poorly coached with so little around him that he has no hope. So here we are, folks. People in the chat are asking, is this rock bottom? Listen, Dwayne Johnson is setting up for the people's elbow right now because rock bottom has been hit. Rock bottom, we're here. We're here. We've been here. And it looks like we're going to be here a little while. There's not a lot I could say about the game from yesterday. There's not a whole lot I can say that I didn't already say on my recap reaction thing from yesterday after the game. There's not a whole lot I could say. The Titans are not firing Brian Callahan today. If they were going to do it, they'd have already done it by now. And people are saying they might do it tomorrow. But the fact of the matter is they've got a game this Sunday. You can't drag your feet on this stuff. Theoretically, if you're going to fire the head coach and get somebody promoted to interim head coach, you need to do that as soon as possible because you got a game this Sunday and you got to travel a long way to Arizona to play it. They're not firing him this week, guys. They're not firing Brian Callahan this week. He will be on the sideline in Arizona this Sunday. Just go ahead and surrender to that. But as far as yesterday, what we learned is that it doesn't matter if the play caller is Brian Callahan or Bo Hardegree. This offense doesn't work. This offensive scheme doesn't work. It's not even working for Cincinnati. And they've got better players than us. This offensive scheme doesn't work. It doesn't get people open. It takes too long to develop. It is not suited for a team with a mediocre offensive line like ours. It is not suited to a rookie quarterback who's trying to learn how to be an NFL quarterback. It's not suited for that. It's a terrible offense. It's a terrible scheme. And it doesn't matter who's calling the plays because it's the same plays over and over from the same scheme. It doesn't matter who's calling it. It's the same stuff. It's the same mentality. It's a bad scheme. It's a bad offensive game plan, and changing play callers isn't going to change that. Amnesia in the super chat said, I just want to know, when are they going to start realizing the half-you-know-what effort being given by certain top-paid players? They need to bench them and start the rookies, play the people who want to play, and bench all the toxic ones. Well, I can think of one in particular. I don't know who you're talking about, Amnesia, but I can think of one in particular, and I'm going to get to him because I got to him yesterday, and I went in pretty hard on him yesterday. But whatever. But yesterday it was on full display again. Brian Callahan, the head coach of this team, conservative, coaching scared. At every available opportunity to do something aggressive and exciting, he's going to opt to do something lame and boring. The offense, even with a new play caller, 0 points against a bad Houston team. Houston's not even good. They were beating us 6-0 at the half. Houston's not good, but they still killed us. That's how bad we are. We're that much worse than even the bad teams. Poorly coached. Nobody believes in what this guy is selling. And Brian Callahan has known for a week now he's going to get fired, at least a week. He knows he's getting fired. As I said last week, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. He knows he's getting fired. Every coach on this staff knows he's getting fired. And the players know too. You think as long as Jeffrey Simmons has been around this league now, you don't think he knows the handwriting's on the wall? You don't think Tony Pollard and some of these guys that have been around the league, even the young guys, the Skoronskis and the Wards and the Lathams, you think they don't know? How are you supposed to get excited to go play for a guy that you know is going to get fired sooner or later? Like, how do you buy into that? How do you buy into the message? Like, it tells you all you need to know that they know he's going to get fired. And it's not like they're rallying together to try to save his job for him. They're just doing what they do. They come out and they stand around and they look uninspired and they look like they don't want to be there, just like Michael Pittman said last week. Oh, wait a minute. Amnesia, are you joking? Amnesia, are you joking? Somebody's saying Callahan just got fired. Is this true? Do you just pull my leg? You pulled my leg. You pulled my leg. Amnesia, you're dirty for that. You're dirty for that. Dang it. Everybody be mad at Amnesia. They just got us in the chat. Anyway, back to what I was talking about before I was lied to by Amnesia. Yeah, I mean, this game was just another disaster. The latest disaster. They don't want to play for this guy. They don't believe in anything this guy's selling. And he doesn't even believe in it. You know? So, yes, Brian Callahan's a disaster, right? And you guys are asking, why hadn't he been fired yet? Why hasn't Callahan been fired? I've seen that in the chat. A lot of people saying, well, if they know they're going to fire him, if it's inevitable, why not just do it? I literally think it is all PR. It is all PR. I think Amy Adams Strunk has developed a reputation of firing people, and she doesn't want to pull the plug too fast because then that, just furthers that reputation of being too impulsive. They said they were going to be patient, and if you fire the guy in week 4 or 5, that doesn't scream patience, and they know it. They know it. And so they're trying to hold on as long as they can. But, I mean, at this point, it's not like the national media would have a problem with it because everybody is saying Brian Callahan should be fired. Like, everybody, it's picking up national media attention that the guy should be fired. So I don't know why they're just like, well, we'll hold on as long as we can. Why? Let's get into this, though. As I said, yesterday the team looked lifeless. Joey Sly was awful. Callahan coaching scared. A 3rd and 12 surrender play on 2 different occasions in the game. Right before half and then right when the second half started, or into the second half, we're running 3rd and 12 surrender plays. Not being aggressive before the half when we were actually moving it down the field. We just gave up and decided to kick a field goal. Like I said, offensive scheme doesn't work. Players aren't developing. The offense is slow developing. It's just the type of offense that is not suited to this personnel or maybe even any personnel. Yesterday was a disaster. And then you have Cam Ward in the post-game presser, which I appreciated this. And I do want to give a shout out to Big Jeff because I thought Jeffrey Simmons was unbelievable yesterday. I thought he was phenomenal. He was the only one, but I thought Jeffrey Simmons he's doing everything he can. But Cam Ward in the post-game press conference yesterday, he had some things to say. Oh boy, he had some things to say that I can't even repeat on this podcast. He said, I'm going to keep it a buck. We booty. Except he didn't say booty. He said, we've lost a quarter of our blanking games. We've lost a quarter of our effing games. Cam Ward was angry, right? He was mad. He was disgusted. Not just with the team, but with his play yesterday. I thought yesterday was Cam Ward's worst game so far. And so I appreciate the fact that Cam Ward was at least honest because the Titans have a tendency of sending their players out to give us a bunch of corporate PR mumbo jumbo. Well, we're doing a lot of good things. We're headed in the right direction. I think if we just do a couple more things right, we can win these games. No, Cam Ward's telling you we suck. Cam Ward said, when's the last time Tennessee won anything? Right? And I hope they never take that away from him. I hope that nobody in this organization ever tries to water him down and tell him, hey, we don't want you saying that stuff. I hope they never do that. I am glad somebody in this organization will talk to me like a normal human being and not give me a bunch of this, we're working hard and there's a lot of good things that we do well. No, I don't want to hear that. I watch the games. I can tell what the truth is. And I'm glad that somebody at the podium was willing to tell me that. Other than Brian Callahan, who stands up there and just blatantly lies and says, we're a resilient team. We're a resilient team. We fight. No, you don't. That's a lie. And I'm glad Paul Kaharski called him out for it. That's a lie. Well, and Brian Callahan's got a press conference later today, and I'm going to live stream that on my Patreon. But Brian Callahan, every Monday, he stands up there and says, well, we do a lot of things well. There are a lot of good things that we did on the film. He's going to say it today. No, there's not, Brian. You're lying. You're lying. When you stand there and talk about how resilient this team is and how they just go out there and fight and they show a bunch of grit, that's just a lie. And your franchise quarterback that you just drafted first overall told us it was a lie. Right after you got done lying, he got up there and said, we suck. Everything about this team sucks. I don't have to wonder who's telling me the truth. I can watch the games and tell the quarterback's at least being honest with us while the head coach is lying. But I appreciated Cam Ward's honesty. Cam Ward was not particularly good yesterday, but at least he was able to admit it, unlike certain other players on this team, L'Jarius Sneed. L'Jarius Sneed, who was confronted with giving up a 37-yard completion on second and 33, and his explanation was, well, I don't want to talk about it. And then he went to, well, that's just one play out of the game. Did you see any of the other plays? Yeah, I saw you holding. I saw you getting called for illegal contact. How is it that the veteran player who's getting paid a lot of money doesn't know how to take accountability and doesn't know how to own his stuff and insists that he's great in spite of the fact that there's no evidence that he's great since he got here? How come he can't take accountability and the rookie who's only been here for 4 games can at least say, hey, I was bad today. I missed on passes. I threw an interception. I held onto the ball too long. Why is it that the rookie can own it and the veteran, who's supposed to be one of our best players, insists that he's awesome in spite of the fact that he's clearly not? And you know what? Let me show you this. Let me show you. Speaking of L'Jarius Sneed, read this sign. Read that. No weenies allowed. I found this sign in my car and I got an idea for a new segment. No weenies allowed. And this is a new segment right here. And L'Jarius Sneed, you're going to get the honor of being the first ever recipient of this prestigious award. You are the Weenie of the Week. That's right, L'Jarius Sneed. You are the first ever. You will go down in history as the first ever Two-Tone Talk Weenie of the Week. You're the Weenie of the Week, L'Jarius. No weenies allowed. They need to trade you, bud. They need to get you out of here. No weenies allowed. You're the Weenie of the Week. L'Jarius Sneed is the first ever Weenie of the Week. Weenie of the Week. Good Lord. So here's the thing, folks. What do we do now? Because there's 13 more games. I'm going to try to shift to being level-headed, okay? Let's be level-headed. What do we do now? Let's calm down. Let's reset. With 13 games to go, 0-4, what do you do? Well, the obvious first thing you do is you fire Brian Callahan. But let's talk about why. Because some people will say, well, what's the point in firing Brian Callahan now? Why not just wait till the end of the season? Because if you put in Denard Wilson or Fossil or whoever as the interim head coach, is the team going to suddenly go on a win streak and win the division or something? So, like what's the point in firing Brian Callahan now? And I understand that. I'm not mad at you if that's your perspective on this. But I would just offer a counter perspective. Brian Callahan and his philosophy, his scheme, it is absolutely atrocious. He's not aggressive at all. He's painfully conservative. He actively hurts this team. And this is already a roster that's not great, but when your coach is putting you even more behind the 8 ball, that's not good. The team doesn't believe in him. They know he's going to get fired. They're not buying what he's selling. Okay? So to me, the reason you fire him immediately, which they're not going to apparently this week, but the reason you fire him first is because what was the whole point of this season? When a month ago, before the Titans ever played a game, what did most of us, including myself, say? We said, you know what? Regardless of win-loss record, this season is about watching Cam Ward progress. Watching Cam Ward learn and grow and getting to the end of the season and being able to say, that's our guy, Cam Ward. And then beyond that, other young players. Cedric Gray, who I actually thought played his best game ever as a pro yesterday. Guys like Cedric Gray, guys like J.C. Latham, Peter Skoronski, Tavondre Sweat, all these guys that are hurt. Like, it was an opportunity, like, regardless of how things go in the win-loss record, if we can get to the end and just say, hey, these guys, we've got about 8 or 9 guys here that are young, that we drafted, that we can build around. That was the goal. And then we traded one of them last week like a bunch of morons, which I still don't understand, in Jarvis Brownlee. But that was the goal before the season started. Okay, that's still the goal. That's still the goal. At 0-4, that's still what you want. Okay, you're going to lose most of your games, if not all. But, like, the goal is, let's make sure, like, Cam Ward's headed in the right direction and these young players are headed in the right direction as well. Real quick, Amnesia said, let's be fair, Brad. Callahan is being killed by players with a defeated mentality. It's clearly visible on and off the field. Start the hungry rookies. Yeah, but, I mean, that's kind of coaching, though. If you have a bunch of players who aren't bought in and don't care, why not? Why aren't they bought in? Why don't they care? But anyway, like, the goal is still to develop these young guys and see how they do regardless of win-loss record. What's the best way to do that with the remaining 13 games? What's the best way to accomplish that? To me, the first thing is getting rid of Brian Callahan. Brian Callahan is making this worse. Let's just look at Cam Ward. Is Cam Ward better in week 4 than he was in week 1? No. He looks like he's developing bad habits. He looks like he's constantly scared of getting sacked because his offensive line's not good. Because if you watch any film breakdowns, you know the route combinations are horrible. Most of the time, nobody's open. And, oh yeah, he's got somebody tackling him usually as soon as he gets the ball. Thank you, Dan Moore, $22 million. So, but the fact of the matter is Brian Callahan, based on what you're seeing, is Brian Callahan helping Cam Ward? No, he's not. Cam Ward is not. Like, the idea is you want Cam Ward to be growing and learning and getting better and better and better and learning the ropes and figuring things out. He looked like he had it more figured out week 1 at Denver in that situation. He looked calmer, cooler, more collected in that game than he did yesterday in painfully quiet NRG Stadium in Houston against a bad Texans team. Like, he's not going in the right direction. Alec Ayomanor's just kind of staying right here. These guys need to get better regardless of win-loss record. And to me, that's not going to happen under Brian Callahan. It's just not. And I understand if you fire Brian Callahan, you're still going to have to pretty much run the same offense the rest of the year because you're not just going to change the offense. But at least then, like, think about this. If you fire Brian Callahan and let's just say you promote Fossil to be the interim head coach, the special teams coach. Let's say you just say, hey, Fossil, we're going to let you be the interim head coach for the rest of the season. Okay, first of all, he's going to bring more energy than Callahan. He's going to bring a little more life. And you know what? At least at that point, you can just say, hey, let's just at least have some fun with this. Let's stop being conservative. Because if Callahan's there, that conservative, scared mentality is going to stay because it's part of who he is. Like, when's he ever going to learn? He's not going to learn. He is going to continually be scared, pee running down his legs, afraid of everything, painfully conservative. I didn't think it was possible to get more conservative than Vrabel, but here we are. Brian Callahan's even more conservative than Vrabel. Think about how bad that is. So until you get him out of here, that scared conservative mentality is going to stay. At least if you get a interim head coach, even if you've still got the same stupid playbook and the same stupid offensive scheme, at least that head coach can then say, hey, we're bad anyway. Let's go for it on 4th and 1. Hey, we got the ball with 40 seconds to go in the half and we're at midfield. Let's try to freaking score a touchdown. Let's try and air it out. Let's take some shots downfield. If we get sacked, we get sacked. If we turn it over, we turn it over. But these guys have got to get better. And they're not going to get better by playing scared. They're not going to get better by trying to tiptoe around and get our field goals. They're not going to get better that way. And Brian Callahan's never going to stop being that coach because he's scared to death. He's coaching for his job. He's trying not to mess up. He's scared of everything. And so it's time. It's time to cut ties with him, let somebody else be the interim, and try to have a little bit of fun with this and put these young players in a position to get better. That has to happen. It's not going to happen this week because they're evidently not firing Brian Callahan this week, but the sooner that can happen, the better, because Brian Callahan's hurting the team. He's making the whole situation worse. Now, I didn't plan on talking about this today, but since you guys in the chat want to talk about it, let's go ahead and detour here off the ramp here to talk about this. I am amazed, first of all, that I have to look at people who are telling me that Cam Ward is terrible and we drafted the wrong guy. It's been 4 weeks. It's been 4 games. Go touch grass. But also, the very idea that anybody, and I try to be nice, but the fact that you guys want to come up in here and be like, well, looks like Will Levis wasn't the problem. We owe him an apology. We should have stuck with him. I have no idea where all these fanboys for Will Levis came from. I have nothing against Will, but like if you can honestly tell me that Cam Ward holding onto the ball too long in his first 4 starts is equivalent to Will Levis shovel passing us into football hell over and over and over again in his second year, then we don't view football the same. If you're going to tell me that Cam Ward holding on to the ball a little too long and missing on a couple of passes inaccurate is the same thing in his first 4 starts, if you're going to tell me that's the same thing as Will Levis doing this, shoveling it out there, or doing his stupid little dances or trying to truck somebody and getting hurt, it's just, I mean, just like Levis did better than Ward. That's just facts. When did Levis ever do anything worthwhile at all after his debut? The debut against Atlanta that everybody goes back to. Okay, you had that. You had the Miami game where they came back in like the last 2 minutes. Okay. Got anything else? Because I remember him getting benched for Mason Rudolph. Doesn't exactly scream like. I just want you guys to realize just because he wasn't the only problem doesn't mean that he wasn't a problem. You understand? Like just because Brian Callahan was clearly also a problem, that does not like absolve him of blame. I don't know why we can't use any nuance at all. Like, I don't know how we can't look at a situation and be like, okay, so it wasn't just Will, but like that doesn't mean that it wasn't partly on Will. Like it doesn't have to be like black or white, which is an interesting way to word that because I think for a lot of you guys, it's very black and white, if you know what I mean. Anyway, let me get back on track for what I was saying. Fire Brian Callahan's the next thing that needs to happen. Name an interim, and that interim, whoever they are, Fossil, Denard Wilson, you know what they're going to do? They're going to come in and they're going to be like, listen, the head coach got fired. I'm an interim. I'm probably going to get fired too. Let's just have a good time. Let's just have a good time. Like let's just have some fun. Let's just try to air this thing out. Let's let Cam learn and let's just pretend that we have a good offensive line and let's just try and make something happen here and have some fun along the way. Like, I would rather do that. I would rather do that than to continue with Brian Callahan playing for field goals, playing scared, surrender draws on 3rd and 12. I'm sick of that. I'm sick of that. After that, after you get your interim head coach, it's time to trade some guys. Time to trade some guys. And here's the thing. There's not a lot of tradable guys on this roster. Like, there's really not a lot of tradable guys because it's, whatever. You've got L'Jarius Sneed, who you could trade. Problem is you traded Jarvis Brownlee. So you trade L'Jarius Sneed. Who the heck plays corner? I don't know. But, we're losing either way. So may as well just get rid of him. If you can watch what L'Jarius Sneed had to say after that game yesterday and still want this guy on the team, we don't view this the same way. But, yeah, they need to try to trade L'Jarius Sneed. They need to try to trade Calvin Ridley. This guy's bringing nothing to the table. He barely even played yesterday. I guess that's one way to stop him from dropping passes. Just don't put him in the game. Just don't put him in the game. And if you're not going to put him in the game, trade him. It makes me wonder if they're going to trade him this week because they didn't play him very much yesterday. It's like, okay, remember last year when they took Hopkins out of that Bills game and then like 3 days later they traded him? Makes me wonder if they're going to trade Calvin this week. But yeah, you need to trade Calvin Ridley. No need to continue on with that experiment. Chigakonkwo, I've said it before, he's not going to be on the team next year. His contract's up at the end of the year. If you can get anything for him, trade him. Tony Pollard, I think Tony Pollard's been running the ball very hard. I like Tony, but he's not going to be on the team next year. So if you can get something for Tony Pollard, trade him. Tyjae Spears is set to come back from IR this week. He'll probably be back on IR in a couple of weeks. But Kalel Mullings is a rookie running back that'll hopefully be back soon. Bring the Jordan Mims from the practice squad. Let them run the ball. Tony Pollard's a good player, and I appreciate Tony Pollard. I think he runs the ball very hard. But the fact of the matter is, I know you want a good running back that can help out Cam Ward, but at this point, I think Tyjae Spears or Kalel Mullings or Jordan Mims could probably give you about what you're getting from Tony. And so if you can get something from Tony Pollard, go ahead and trade him. Jeff Simmons. People are talking about trading Jeffrey Simmons. I want to make this unequivocally clear. I don't even know if that's a word. Unequivocally clear. I think that's the way the word goes, but I do not want to trade Jeffrey Simmons. I do not want to trade Jeffrey Simmons at all. Jeffrey Simmons is incredible. And I know that if you feel like you can get a first-round pick for him, that's tempting, but everybody in Titans fandom talks about Jeffrey Simmons like he's 35 years old and he's only got this year is probably his last year or something. He's 28. Like, he's 28 years old. You mean to tell me you don't think Jeffrey Simmons has got a few really good years, like, still ahead of him? I want him to play those years with us. Because y'all the same people that always complain because we got rid of AJ and we got rid of Derek and we got rid of Kevin Byard and we got rid of all these great players. Okay, so now your solution is to get rid of another one? No, let's keep one. I don't want to trade Jeffrey Simmons. Do you think that whatever player you would draft with that first-round pick, do you think they would be better over the next few years than Jeffrey Simmons? Because I don't. I don't want to trade him. I don't want to trade him. I want to keep him. When that new stadium is played in, I want Jeffrey Simmons in there. So I don't want to trade Jeffrey Simmons. I'm not saying they won't because I don't know why they traded Jarvis Brownlee, but I don't want to trade Jeff at all. Now, I could go for trading, and all of these guys are going to be late round picks, but like Arden Key had a sack yesterday, but he can go. He's not going to be on the team next year. Draymond Jones has done nothing. If you can get anything for him, sure, you can trade him. But at this point, I don't even know if you're going to get anything for him. He's done absolutely nothing. Cody Barton, maybe. I think Cody Barton's been a huge disappointment. I was really excited about him. I think he's been flat out bad. I think Cedric Gray is now the best linebacker on the team, which is good. I would rather Cedric Gray be good than Cody Barton because Cedric Gray is a guy we drafted. But the reason, I would say maybe trade Cody Barton if you could get anything, but I don't think they will because they're so weak at inside linebacker. I think they're done with James Williams. So I don't think they're going to trade Cody Barton. Tyjae Spears, I mean, if you want to start looking at young guys they could trade, Tyjae's been hurt a lot. They probably don't believe in him very much at this time because he's always hurt. I could maybe see him trading Tyjae. I'm going to throw out the name Tavondre Sweat. I don't want to trade Tavondre Sweat, but they traded Jarvis Brownlee. Tavondre Sweat's on IR right now, and he's got a big attitude, and he's, whatever, but like, I wonder if they might trade somebody like that. Again, I don't want to, but they may. So yeah, that's just kind of the guys I'm looking at trade-wise, and really none of those guys are going to get you like in the first 2 rounds unless you trade Jeff, which I've already said I don't want to do that. So yeah, I mean, but I trade anybody for anything you can get, and let's fire Callahan and hope that whoever the interim is can bring a little bit of life. And because here's the thing, I think it's in the cards that this team could go 0-17. I think that's possible. It's very possible. I think Houston's one of the worst teams on their schedule, and they got trounced by Houston. So I have no reason to believe that they can beat anybody on their schedule. I don't want them to go 0-17. I don't want them to go 0-17 because, first of all, that's embarrassing. Second of all, like, I don't know if you guys realize, I don't even think I realize how tough that is when you have a team that goes an entire season without winning any games. That's not good for Cam Ward. That's not good for Femi Oladejo or Alec Ayomanor. These guys need to experience at least a couple of times what it's like to celebrate in the locker room after a win. They haven't gotten to experience that yet. Jackson Dart got to experience it yesterday. Cam Ward still hasn't gotten to experience that. I want them to at least have that. Like, I understand those of you who are like, we need to just lose every game and secure that number 1 pick. I want to at least, I mean, even though we went 3-14 last year and it was horrible, at least you had a few instances where the guys got to experience winning and celebrating in the locker room after a game. These guys need to experience that at some point. And so I don't want them to go 0-17. If Brian Callahan stays the coach of this team all year, I think 0-17 is much more likely than if you just fire him and let Denard Wilson or Fossil or somebody like that be the interim, bring a little bit of new life. Like, that's kind of where I stand with that. I want to at least win a few games, and that's where I stand with that. But it's with Brian Callahan, it's a lot more likely. Looking at future head coaches, I know it's early to talk about this, but everybody wants to talk about it. New coaches, the next head coach of the Tennessee Titans, obviously Joe Brady's name's going to be thrown around. Todd Monken's name's going to be thrown around. I've heard Cliff Kingsbury as well. And I get that. I'm just a little iffy on these guys that are currently coaching at places with generational quarterbacks. That just makes me nervous because it's the whole thing about Brian Callahan. It was like, oh, he's been working with Joe Burrow. I don't want to fall into that trap again where it's like, oh, we're going to hire Joe Brady because look what he's accomplished. It's like, okay, how much of that was him and how much of it was, the generational quarterback he's working with? Like, I think, Brian Flores, Pred Talk said in the thing, but I wonder if after this awful experiment with Brian Callahan and a new stadium being built, and you're on a limited time to get this team to where anybody would show up to watch them in that new stadium, I just wonder if the Titans are going to want to hire a sure thing. If the Titans are going to want to hire somebody that they know can coach, that it's not going to be their first time head coaching gig, somebody that you know. And that's where I think the name Mike McCarthy starts to sneak in a little bit. Now, I have said publicly on this podcast, Mike McCarthy does not excite me at all. But I also realize beggars can't be choosers. And Mike McCarthy consistently had Dallas in the playoffs. They usually went like 12 wins with him. I don't know if I'm willing to just be like, oh, like as a Titans fan, I don't know if I've got it in me to just put my nose up to the idea of Mike McCarthy, because Mike McCarthy sure seems preferable to what we got right now. Right? Like, if Mike McCarthy could come in and get the Titans to just back to being in the hunt for a playoff spot, like you and I would rejoice over that compared to where we're at right now. So I think Mike McCarthy is an option for the Titans. Because he can coach. He may not be the most exciting. He may not be like the guy that you're just jumping up and down about, but he can coach. And you know that. And after Brian Callahan, you take a huge risk if you go out and you get another guy who's never been a head coach before and roll the dice on him. I just wonder if the Titans are going to be more prone to step back and go get somebody. John Gruden, I know people are going to mention John Gruden. I do think they will reach out to John Gruden just because that would get headlines in the new stadium being built, but I just don't think that's going to happen. I think that's a fever dream. I also will mention this. I mean, I don't think this is the most far-fetched thing. I think the Ravens could fire John Harbaugh. I think the Ravens look bad. I think he's been the coach there forever. A lot of Ravens fans calling for a change in scenery. Like, I think that John Harbaugh might be fired if things don't turn around for the Ravens. I don't know if that would interest anybody, but I think John Harbaugh could be fired. Brandon mentioned Rex Ryan, who has said many times that he would like to get back into coaching. I mean, that'd be something. How do you guys feel about? I'm curious in the chat. How do you guys feel about Rex Ryan as the next head coach of the Tennessee Titans? Because I'll be honest, that's a name I haven't even thought about. Anybody in the chat interested in Rex Ryan as the next head coach of the Tennessee Titans? It's interesting because I want to say this, because I'm just talking back and forth with people in the chat. Somebody said Arthur Smith. I got a good friend of mine, and he may be watching right now. He was in the chat earlier, who's a big fan of the Falcons. And we were talking last night about how Arthur Smith, obviously his time as the head coach of the Falcons, which is who he left the Titans for, was not good. It was not good. But, like, Arthur Smith, when he was with the Falcons, I think they went like 7-10 both years. And he had, like, Desmond Ridder at quarterback. I think he had, like, the ghost of Marcus there for a little bit. Like, and now look at the Steelers offense with Arthur Smith as the offensive coordinator there, with old man Rodgers. I'm just saying, I'm not totally out on Arthur Smith. I think Arthur Smith was put in a terrible situation in Atlanta when he was the head coach there. I'm not Nathan, I did not ban you, Nathan. I put you in timeout for 30 minutes. Because I just couldn't take it anymore. It's ridiculous. Somebody said we need a culture builder like Dan Campbell. If Dan Campbell would leave Detroit to come to Tennessee, that'd just be great. Somebody said give me Eddie George as head coach. He's got his hands full at Bowling Green. So somebody said Marcus Freeman from Notre Dame. First of all, no. But also, it's interesting to me that it used to be all the time you saw college coaches that people wanted in the NFL, and that never happens anymore. Like, I feel like there's never any college coaches that NFL teams are like, we want him. I don't know if like Urban Meyer in Jacksonville years ago just scared everybody off from that, but like, Kirby Smart in Georgia, like, I just don't think his coaching style would translate to the NFL at all. Coach Prime, give me a break. I'm sorry, that's just not going to happen. Maybe Dan Lanning in Oregon. Maybe I could see him potentially being a good NFL coach. Maybe. Matt Eberflus, no thank you. Matt LaFleur, they're not firing him in Green Bay. Matt Patricia, I don't know, man. I don't know. But either way, I do think the Titans are going to want to hire a coach that is more of a sure thing. I don't think they're going to be eager to hire a first-time head coach. And also, I don't think that it's going to be as easier to just hire whoever you want, because like by the end of the season, there's going to be other teams looking for head coaches too. I think Miami's going to fire their coach. I think Carolina's going to fire their coach. Who else do y'all think? I think maybe the Giants might fire Daboll, maybe, even though they looked good yesterday. Arizona might fire their coach. Anybody else? That's 4 other teams right there. Yeah, I mean, there's at least going to be 4 or 5 other teams that are going to be looking for coaches. But, I mean, the Titans are going to be in a situation where, you've got Cam Ward that I think could make the job appealing. You've got probably a very high draft pick in the upcoming draft that could make the job appealing. So, I mean, maybe you could the Browns might fire Stefanski, but I think Stefanski is a good coach. I don't think they should fire him. One thing I will say, I wouldn't be opposed to Mike McDaniel as a offensive coordinator, not a head coach, but I don't think I would mind him as an offensive coordinator. Y'all just throwing any name out. Andy Reid. What do you think, Kansas City gonna fire Andy Reid? They're not. That's all I got for today. I appreciate you guys tuning. I know it's a horrible time to be a fan of the Tennessee Titans. It's awful. And so I appreciate you sticking with it. I'm going to be here every week. I'm going to be back on Friday. I ain't going nowhere. So we'll get through it together. Even if it's 0-17, I'll be here. God bless you guys. Tighten up. Talk to you soon.